looking at part 4 here on page 4. So as you should have seen in your warm-up, we're going to be talking about kind of handing over the job of taking measurements to you in lab, and you need to make sure you can take them correctly on anything that doesn't tell you what the measurement is. So like if you're using a balance or a scale and it tells you on a digital screen exactly what the weight is, that's what you're going to write down. But if it's anything you have to measure on your own, so like a ruler or a graduated cylinder or a beaker, we need to make sure that you can do it correctly. Okay? And that's our why for today. Now the target is making sure that you can use whatever given, a ruler, a piece of glassware, which could be a graduated cylinder or beaker most commonly, and you need to read it to their correct number of significant figures. Okay, so that significant figure phrase is what we're going to cover today, and make sure you can do this and you'll get some practice doing it. Now, significant figures themselves in terms of a definition. Significant figures are important, okay, because it's going to help someone else understand how you had to estimate in lab, okay? So when you estimate in lab, you're going to have some uncertainty with your measurement because you are ultimately responsible for making that last decision about how much it is, okay? So they're important. I'm going to start with this one. They're important because they communicate your uncertainty. So I'm going to just write uncertainty. So it tells someone where you had to estimate in lab or where you had to round to, basically. Okay, so they understand, okay, so that's that measurement that you took. That might be a little different according to other people. Okay. Now, significant figures themselves are going to be the exact digits of the measurement plus one uncertain digit. Okay, so exact digits plus one estimated digit, okay? Now, or uncertain digit, however you want to phrase it, okay? And we're going to practice that. But basically what that means is you need to read the last number according to your estimate, okay? So talking about reading lab equipment, we're going to practice with graduated cylinders and rulers, and here are more graduated cylinders here because those are the things you're going to be dealing with the most. Beakers you'll deal with too, but we'll talk about why you'll use graduated cylinders to measure more often than beakers later, okay? Now, this first one, this graduated cylinder, it's like I took a picture of the middle of the graduated cylinder. What you should know from other science classes is you read to the bottom of this like line that the liquid makes. That's called the meniscus. That's why the arrow is pointing you to read right there. Okay? Now, what you need to do whenever you're given a reading is you have to figure out how it's marked. Okay? So I'll say to you, what is it marked to? Or how is it calibrated? That means the same thing. So I'm looking at this, and each individual line is 1, right? There's 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60. So I need to figure out what is this meniscus line telling me? Well, it's after 52, but it's kind of a little before 53. So that after 52 / a little before 53 is where you have to be in charge of estimating, okay? So I know it's 52 point something, and that's what I need to decide, okay? Because you should always read one place further than it's marked. So it's marked to the ones place. We need to read to that first decimal point. So to me, it looks like it's like just under the 53 line. So that might look like 52.9 to me. Let's say you think, I think it's a little lower. I think it's 52.7. Great. That's where that estimated digit's going to be a little different between you and me, okay, or you and your partner next to you, because you might see it a little differently than others. And that's what you're telling someone with this significant figures of your reading, is that you estimated that last digit. So I'm going to put 52.9 here. It's milliliters. You'll learn that this year. That's what our graduated cylinders are measured in, okay? Let me look at this ruler, all right? So I'm looking at this ruler. Just so you know, the rulers are measured in inches. There's the number 3. Okay, so that tells me this is the number 2 here. So I'm looking at what it's measured to. So this is 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, 2.4, 2.5, 2.6, 2.7, 2.8, 2.9, and then that would be 3. Okay, so I know it's definitely near 2.4 something. Maybe I think it's exactly 2.40 because I think it's exactly on the line. Maybe you think that's 2.39 because you think it's just a little below that line. Great, okay? So that's where you're measuring to. So it's marked to 2.4 or 2.3, and you need to give me that next number, okay? So I'm going to say 2.40 inches. I'm abbreviating there. Now down here, graduate cylinder practice, okay? I'm looking at this. Here's 400, there's 500. So that tells me each line's 20, right? 420, 440, 460, 485, okay? Because there's only 4 numbers here. So 20, 40, 60, 85. I'm looking at this and I'm saying, okay, where do I think that meniscus is, that line at the bottom? Well, to me, that looks pretty darn close to that 440 number, but I think it's like a little below that line if I'm trying to draw in that line there. So maybe I think that's 439. Okay? Maybe you think it's 440 on the dot. Okay? Great. But you're telling me where you're estimating that. Okay? Let's look at the next one. So each line is 1, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I need to know what I think it is close to this line here, this meniscus. So I know that it's close to 7. Maybe you think it's just below 7. So instead of 7.0, because you give me that next number, okay, it's marked to the ones place, you got to give me that first decimal, which comes after it. So maybe you think it's 7.0, it's right on the line. Maybe you think it's 6.9, it's right below the line. Maybe you even think it's like 7.1, it's right above the line. That's where, again, you can have a little difference from the person that's next to you because you are estimating yourself. This next one. So I'm noticing that there are a lot of little lines here that get me to 100. So that's going to make me guess that each one's 10. Okay? You could check it 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, and so forth. Okay? So as I'm looking at this, I'm seeing that it's pretty darn close to that 5th line after the 200. So that means it's right near 250. Maybe you think it's a little below. Maybe you think it's a little above. Maybe you think it's right on the line. I'm going to argue that that meniscus looks slightly below the 250 line to me. Okay? So I'm going to 249. If you think it's 250, great. If you think it's 251, that's fine too. But you need to give me to this number right here. Okay? The ones place because it's one place past where it's marked. This one here, I'm looking at it, and each line is 1, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and so forth. That means each line stands for 1, okay? So if we look at the ones place, you need to give me that next decimal point number here, okay? So I'm looking at that, and that looks like, if we look at it, I'm seeing 35, 36, 37. It's right near 37. I think that line looks pretty darn on 37. So I'm going to say 37.0 because you need to give me this number as you're estimating because it tells you the one, so you need to give me the next number over. Maybe you think it's 36.9, maybe you think it's 36.1. Great, okay, as long as you give me that decimal. All right, so here you go. You're going to go practice some of these just like we did, rulers, graduated cylinders. You're going to check your answers, and then we're going to try a master.